right, welcome back to Easier Habits Live. I am business coach Alex Sorensen. This is my wife, Meg Sorensen.
I am a communication coach and consultant, and I help people go global by using English to advance their business and make connections with other people around the world.
So we've caught Meg between two events, an expo that was partially rained out by the aftermath of a hurricane, and another event in New York. But we're talking a lot about finding your message and centering that around a perspective shift. But before we get into that, a communication tip.
Communication tips. Okay, so I was trying to think about what to do for this one, and was thinking about communication that isn't verbal, right? So the way that we express ourselves is so much more than the words we say, and even how we say them, because we have body language, we have, if I'm kind of like back here and just like, moody teenager, a little bit mumbly or whatever, as opposed to forward and engaged and looking directly at you, right? And so pay attention to how you engage physically with the space when you're communicating with other people. Are you looking at the person directly, creepily? And there's a bunch of other things that go along with that, but my tip right now is just to start paying attention, because before you can make any changes, you need to understand what it is that you're already doing, and then you can see if is it working, is it not, and make adjustments accordingly.
Awesome. So I had vindication for my tip yesterday, specifically around when you have a message that you're sharing with people, center it on one of the key perspective shifts they need to make to be successful. And there was a YouTube ad that I was watching, and he started with the line, "You don't have to put money into ads to get leads from your videos." That was a perspective shift, right? Like, videos, I have to pay for ads. And what they were offering was a free challenge. That's the lead magnet, to like a 5-day free challenge to get up and running with what they called like conversion videos that you just post on your social media accounts. So I thought that was interesting. And then I'm sure, from that challenge, they get you to join their Facebook group, right? And that's the lead magnet part. They've captured you in the group and your email address and like 5 other ways. They've got your information. I avoid giving them my phone number in the group, but and I've tried, these other ads where, they've got your phone number as well, and then you get like 5 calls from their salespeople saying, "Hey, we have this event coming up. Hey, we have this special offer," right? So, yeah.
Calls.
Yeah, I understand. But that's, that was an example of like all of that lead magnet machinery from people who, are good at marketing, who teach marketing, etc., leading with the perspective shift you need to be successful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
very cool.
Anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to think about, we already practiced some of your invitations. I guess we could review that, and how that might apply or work for you in New York. And then we can talk a little bit more about like what an automated sales funnel looks like when we have that in place, so that hopefully in the future, right, you are sending people to that lead magnet like, "Hey, I have a free resource about telling your story in English. Here, go here, and sign up for my email list and you'll get it."
Yeah. Right.
And then that goes to whatever the automated source. You could have an automated upsell. If you would like coaching, by the way, let me know after they download their email or whatever, right? So, but first, so you have your pitches for the lead magnet pitches to work with you directly, even if that's just like producing like an interview or a practice session with someone.
Yeah.
And then you can follow up like, "Hey, would you be interested in longer term coaching?"
Yeah.
So do any of those apply to New York, which is a slightly different case?
Yep.
It is international.
Yes.
But this is a specifically entertainment space where you've been helping a production with an international crew and whatnot come together.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to be focusing on with this
Right.
particular trip. One of them is helping to drum up interest for this project. It's an anime musical version of Sleepy Hollow. I'm so excited about it. We're in kind of, talks to figure out who our producers and everything are going to be, but things have been going really well. And one of the things that we need to do is just make sure we've got proof of concept, that fans are really going to be interested. So I have that whole side that is, kind of my main focus of why I'm going to New York. However, there's this other side of there's going to be people there from the Japanese entertainment industry. And it's going to be kind of similar to what I experienced in France this last June, I'm anticipating anyways, where there's these people who are going to come out to talk about, their shows and their directing and whatever. And most of the interactions probably going to happen through translators, interpreters. And so those people I would like to approach, and understanding what their needs are, right? And seeing if they have that desire. Because I always have to feel it out a little bit, right? So, asking them, like, how often do they do things like this? What, would they like to do it more? Or do they find themselves running into, difficulties or whatever? And then kind of going into then my pitch. A lot of them, they'll ask me what I do because I'll be speaking in Japanese with them, and I'll tell them that, I'm a communication consultant. I help people go global with whatever business there is, and doing that in English.
I think you get a lot of mileage about, like, specifically, and you might need to practice this in Japanese if that's the conversation you're intending to have, right?
練習しましょう.
Telling them, like, I'm a communication coach. I help people tell their stories in English to a global audience.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that. Yeah. So that's something that I'll want to practice today in Japanese because, again, that's very much who these people are going to be. And then I'm trying to think. I guess, asking if they would like to be on, a mailing list, or if they'd like to, connect in one of those ways. I kind of want to, I still haven't set up the things that I talked about this last week, right? Where I'm going to do the coaching session that we're going to record on YouTube, and then the interview as well. Yeah. And so I want to get those done first, but I think inviting people to an email list is a good kind of starting point.
Especially if you have something specific that's, relevant to, people pitching entertainment products to an international audience. So, like, if you have something, and I think that's probably, with whatever extra time you have today, I guess to follow up. So there was some follow up with the other people, and then outreach. Did you do that yesterday?
I did.
Okay,
yes.
Great. So if that's out of the way, that was one of the big things. Extra time that you have today, I think, would be thinking about just putting together a resource that would be how to follow up with your connections at a conference in English or something like that, right? Or whatever, that'd be, like, very relevant. And so you could say, hey, I've got this resource, I'd love to give it to you. Could I get you on my email list? And then just take their email, add them to their email list, send that to them, right?
I like that.
And that's they are on your email list. You ask for permission, and they're getting a resource, but then they'll also get the next email you send out.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that.
So,
okay.
All right. So practice in Japanese, come up with a resource, right? That you could say, can I add you to my real email list so I can send you that resource? Excuse me. And so thinking about the sales funnel, have you thought more about what the shift in perspective people need to be successful telling their story in English?
I want people to know that they can tell their story now, regardless of what their English level is, right? That everybody that I've talked, nobody's an absolute beginner, right? Absolute beginner means you know zero about the language. So if I were to think of, like, Farsi, I know nothing about Farsi, and I can't say even one word. I I can recognize the writing system, and that's about it. And so I would be an absolute beginner with that. But even with a romance language like French or Spanish that has a lot, well, I've studied a little bit of Spanish, but like French that has a lot of crossover words, I'm not an absolute beginner because we share enough in common, with our languages. And everybody in Japan has studied English if they went to school. And so I know none of them are absolute beginners, and I want them to understand that they can tell their story even where they are now, right? That there's improvements to be made, but they don't have to wait to make those improvements in order to start connecting with others.
There's an example I'm thinking of, and I'll see if I can dig it up for you. It was like this, Tai Chi teacher, actually, and his English really wasn't very good. But like what they did is he had someone, maybe one of his students or something like that, or could have even done like a barter, right? You can come and do their Tai Chi, like super expensive Tai Chi retreat for free as long as you help me with like the voiceovers on this ad.
That's awesome.
He bought, someplace out in the middle of nowhere, created like a fancy Tai Chi retreat, probably targeted at Westerners. And then, otherwise like an online course and everything. Like the marketing was really on point for this kind of thing. Like it clearly was not just like a monastery that's like, doing a 1990s style email, or like a 1990s style web page that like, cause they knew one of their cousins. Like they knew what they were doing, but it was a good example of, he leaned on somebody else to, describe a native English kind of the benefit of it, which its own was a great technique, right?
Yeah.
That's because that's the perspective of people coming here. He gave them that.
I should use
but then, and then you have this Tai Chi master who has some kind of basic English, but even that works into his story, especially when what he's selling is something, essentially Chinese,
very exotic
and different, to an English audience, and like not in a pandering or like stereotypical way, but it's just like actually the basicness of his English, like or like the roughness of his English was like at least neutral, possibly a benefit because like people feel like they're getting a more Chinese experience, right?
Yeah, right. As opposed to if it's someone from California or whatever, it's a little bit jarring. You're like, oh wait, huh? That's you're not really authentic, even if they are, right? It's I can see that, just the stereotypes and expectations I think that we have in our minds of what that looks like and sounds like.
Right. And this is not like pretend your English is worse than it is.
No, gosh no. Oh gosh no.
Or like, any of that leaning into the stereotype, but just the idea of like, I mean, maybe your ideal client doesn't want you to be urbane, perfect, native, like fluent English speaker.
Yeah.
Maybe they like, the whole package of you, which includes the fact that you're very steeped in Japanese culture and you're willing to bridge that gap, but like you're, but that you have all of this wealth of information from focusing on Japanese culture.
And actually that honestly is what I find with almost all of my clients is that they appreciate that I can speak Japanese, but they don't need me to explain English grammar in Japanese to them. They know that. They need someone who understands where they're coming from, understands their culture and their language, but then who can do the stuff in English with them like a native speaker can.
Right.
Because if they wanted someone who spoke Japanese, they would go to a Japanese coach or consultant or something. And so that's honestly one of the benefits that I bring. And so I think, leaning into that, helping people understand that's.
So the perspective shift is things like imperfect grammar and accent are not the problem.
Yeah, they're not barriers. They're not the barriers that
right?
you think they are.
They can't even be an asset, which is a perspective shift. And really the focus that you want to work on is confidence telling your story in English is much more, you're going to get so much more mileage out of that ability to connect with your audience, etc., over perfect grammar, perfect, perfect accent.
Yeah,
So.
I like that. That's a good thing. Okay, what's my action item for that?
So, I was gonna say something to work on. So I mean, if that's your core message, right? That is, the perspective shift. That's the thing that ties all your content together, right?
Yep.
So you're gonna leverage that in the thing we already committed to, which is the lead magnet stuff, right? So that you're helping, you're following up, right, in an authentic way, telling your story or something or whatnot, right, through the follow up, however, right. But you can use that to like. You should lose that lens whenever you're thinking through content. And then the first thing is you want the lead, something in place for, New York, because you're going to be leaving tomorrow.
Yes.
So it's like the biggest thing. If you have extra time, right, thinking about that central message, then you can start thinking, talk to me about this, or, I can go over the ideas, but I think the next thing really is the sales funnel. So we're going to be thinking about ads. What kind of YouTube videos are these people watching? Because that's one of the best places to target people who are want help with a specific thing. And it skews very male. I don't know how big the Japanese audience is on YouTube. I'd be kind of curious about that. But your user avatar is male, so that's not a problem, right? Yep. So there should be something, and this is. And that'd be the first step, is knowing the videos you're going to do. Having the ad, so that perspective shift, right? You can lead with it just like this other ad. You don't need perfect English or grammar or a perfect accent to tell your story effectively. In fact, if you're selling any Japanese product, then, or if you can target only Japanese people or only people in Japan or something like that, right? Then, those things may be assets. What you need are confidence in telling your story in English. And then you can introduce yourself as an English coach, give some examples, give an inspiring examples of someone who uses that. Again, doesn't have to necessarily be your client. But you can talk about, bring in, kind of layer those pieces, talk about your testimonials from your clients, right? And bring that in, and of course call to action, and you can play around with call to action to probably, if we're looking for clients, we can try directly to clients, but we could also try to lead magnet to email list and sell through there. So you could experiment with both ways. So it really starts with the video. You have a kind of core perspective change that you can play around with the wording on that will become a video ad, but and I think actually probably along with thinking through the wording, this is what I'm currently doing, trying to go through this process, is see if you can, if you're landing on the right videos, you'll start seeing ads for similar products. So certainly if you land, for instance, on a targeted international entrepreneur video, right, then you'd start seeing ads targeted towards international entrepreneurs. If it's about learning business English or reaching a new audience in English, right? You presumably start seeing ads for that. So I'd start checking out the ads and the ones that you feel are effective, and just start outlining what they say, and then just shamelessly copy, but put in your own points, right, point for point. Start with that perspective shift, that YouTube video ads. It's. I think I'm literally, if I can, for some of these ads, try and sentence by sentence, not write out, quickly get out what they say, but really what is the function of that? So the first teaser perspective shift. Second, what is it? Is it a fact that deepens the meaning of that, or
personal
is it a
anecdote,
success story? Or right? So start charting that out, and then just steal shamelessly that structure. And then try that out. So that's the long term. So it's the follow up for this week would be the lead magnet for your email list, and then extra time you have would be thinking about what videos to put that ad on, and doing other research on ads to get ideas for what you're messaging, what you'd like your messaging to be, because the end goal hopefully would be we're getting these video ads in front of people. Entrepreneurs who are looking for exactly your service. You give them that perspective shift in the video, so you've already done something valuable, and they're like, oh yeah, that is helpful, I want more of this. And then you lead them to your site either through a lead magnet, or through or like directly for sales. So that's a big vision.
Awesome.
And I always get so into these that like by the end of it, I'm forgetting like what the business tip was. Like I had one.
Don't get lost in the details.
No, it's good. It's good. And normally I don't have to give a separate business tip at the end of my coaching sessions. And
so I'm glad my communication tip is at the beginning, because then I can't.
I need to write it down, right? Those little micro optimizations. I can pick up the sticky note. Oh, that's what it was.
You remembered.
So No, it wasn't actually. But I was pantomiming. If I had the sticky note, right, I could see the reminder of what the business tip is, and then this wouldn't be a problem. So, So business tip, replaying like business videos I've watched recently. I'll give a more general one than that actually is related to some of the perspective shift, I guess, that I would love people to take, which is that business is not a formula, it's a marathon. And the reason why this is, for me, I think, probably the central like perspective shift that needs to happen for a lot of people is if you think business is a formula, then you spend all your time sifting through information, all right, and trying to find, the right message for the right people with the right product or service or whatever. And the problem with that is even if you found that quote unquote formula, you still probably wouldn't get anywhere, because you wouldn't be a good judge of when someone's ready to buy or not, or you'd fumble the words or come across as unconfident or inauthentic. You wouldn't know how to build a relationship, like an ongoing relationship for sales. So you're really not going to get the mileage out of a formula if that's all you have. Right? The marathon is about forward momentum. What you really want is time spent practicing the business. And that gives you two things that you can't get from a formula. One, which is skill, right? Skill in implementing that. So yeah, you have a message, but do you have skill at saying that message through whatever mediums? Like, do you have familiarity with that medium? Do you, can you produce... Are you focused on the right values? For instance, like in video, a lot of times people focus, I hear this again and again, focus on like the lighting and the camera equipment more so than like the content of the video. And like real experts know, like, could make a low production quality video that is really powerful because the content is structured correctly, right? Yeah. That's an example of like the skill. And the other thing it gives you is judgment, right? When you see a lot of situations, not in theory, but in practice, right? When you've done a lot of marketing, done a lot of sales, done a lot of whatever, you start to see differences in people and how they work and they operate. And so you get a judgment of what is a good opportunity and what's not. And so that judgment along with the skill is really important, and those are the things that really carry a lot of people in. And so Alex Hormozy recently was saying the pattern he sees with successful entrepreneurs is they do stuff, they take a lot of action, and it doesn't pan out, and then eventually they apply all of the things they've been learning to the right opportunity, and that's when they blow up. And it wasn't because the opportunity or the formula, it was because they had already built the skill and judgment they need to be successful. And then the formula is helpful, but like 99% of the work is the practice. Yeah. So think about business not as a formula you're trying to get right, and you can get right with research without practicing. It's much like language and communication, right? The magic is not the grammar, the magic is the practice communicating. So same thing with business.
Yep.
All right. So I saw we got a subscriber yesterday, which is exciting. Woo-hoo! So thank you.
Welcome.
So if you want to follow us on this journey, please like, subscribe, share this so other people can join us. Our goal for this group, and I should probably start out with this, invite people to be active at the beginning. But our goal for this group is just to be able to provide a venue for solopreneurs and early stage, startup founders to be able to have a place where they can, work alongside us as we're figuring out these marketing the difficulties of marketing and sales and growing your base. Have a place to ask questions. I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but that will be a beautiful day when we get our first question in the chat. And there's some work I think I need to do in terms of just, not just posting the video afterwards, but in advertising the live piece.
Yeah.
And I'll make a note of that. But, those are the goals, because I want this to be a resource for you, so to help you take action and stay engaged and, be inspired, like see the behind the scenes, not just like the after. The people who are successful after the fact, they describe their success as a formula, right?
Yeah.
Like, I did X, Y, Z, and you think, oh, I just need to do those things, and you try them out and they don't work for you, right? It's because that's not what made them successful. It was like the daily practice, right? And so that's what I want to build with the strategy session, is just something that inspires you to take daily action or gives you an idea for practice, not just an idea for, to think about or to research, but something you can do in your business specifically every day. So.
Yep. So subscribe, wish me luck in New York.
Yep.
I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Alec will see you tomorrow.
Yep.
And that should be our, last interruption for a while. So
yeah, so I will be scouring the internet, I think, for other questions on like Reddit or other like entrepreneur boards, etc. And I think I'll be answering those because that'll be fun.
Sounds awesome. All right, have a great day, everybody.